Welcome back, everybody. John Aravosis here. Hello, all. Hopefully, my video and audio are going well today. Still looks a little slow to me, actually, but hopefully, it's being okay. Anyway, welcome, guys. Give me a minute. Oop, turn that off. Let me get TikTok rolling. Actually, I'll put there we go. Do not disturb on my phone. See if that helps. 1 sec here. All right, there we go. All right, let me get TikTok rolling, guys. Introduce yourselves. You know how it usually goes. You know how it usually works. Oops. Actually, let me look here. Hopefully, I let that thing upload. Did I let it upload? Yes, I have a very funny story to tell you in a second. Some social media influencer that Trump interviewed with today, some kid, 23-year-old kid who endorsed Donald Trump. And it's the funniest damn thing you've ever heard. Let me go to come on. Shoot. Oh my God, stop. For the love of God. TikTok makes it just incredibly difficult to start the show. It's so much easier on YouTube with you guys. And I go here to start the show on TikTok and it's like living hell. All right. Hold on 1 second here. I start with you guys because you're the easy people. And I know you won't get upset that I'm taking a minute to do this. So all right, Paris. Oh, how cute they have Paris gifts. Way too expensive, but they have Paris gifts for the Olympics on TikTok. That's nice, but I'm not going to select that because that's way too much to ask people to spend. It's like 15,000 TikTok dollars, whatever that is, but it's a lot, or whatever, diamonds or whatever they call it on TikTok. Describe your goal? Oh, really? All right, weird. Okay, what are you doing? Weird little TikTok thing. All right, go live. Here we go. All right. Jens is writing in funny languages. I'm kidding. All right, TikTok starting now. Excellent. Excellent. All right. You might be older on YouTube. Hard to say. TikTok, our crowd on TikTok is a decently adult crowd. Hey, Lisa. Thanks for joining us. Penny, user 414. Buddy. Hey, Ash. Hi, guys. Welcome. Excuse me. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. Sorry, getting that weird temperature thing in my apartment again. Oh, she never hears me. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. I hiccuped. See if Alexa can handle it. Take hiccup. Привет, Misha. I don't know how to say going fine. What do you say? How's it going? Хорошо. I don't know. I can read it, but I don't know how to answer it well anymore. Other than хорошо. Thank you, Chazak, for the gift. The stock market is not crashing. The stock market, interesting that you asked that. Oh, shoot. I didn't write it down. I've got it on my Twitter. But the NASDAQ, which is all the tech stocks, are up 25% since Trump was president. The S&P 500 is up 9% this year under Biden. It's up 25%, I believe, in the last year, 12 months. And it's up something like the S&P 500 is up 55% since Donald Trump was president. So yes, stocks did lose 2% today. They're still up 55% since Trump was president. So the S&P, at least the S&P, people need to take a chill pill, right? Everyone's freaking out about the stocks. The Middle East, that's a little scarier. But let's get rolling, guys. We can talk about it. Let's start talking about the election. Then, of course, we'll do Ukraine. And then we can obviously talk about Iran and all the other stuff. Lots of crazy stuff, too. Basically, it looks like, thank you, user 336. I'm assuming, yeah, I assume that was you. Thank you, John. It looks like the Iranians got some of their surrogates, their terrorist groups who work with them, to attack a U.S. military base in Iraq, and they injured several U.S. troops. So kind of a mess. Thank you, Bjorn. Thank you, PC Noel. Iran basically is responding to Israel by going after the U.S. and trying to kill American troops, which is really bad. Thank you, Vicky. Especially before a U.S. election, because even though a U.S. president should not make decisions based on the election, a U.S. president cannot afford to look weak before a U.S. election. So Biden is going to have greater pressure on him to blow the crap out of Iran. And greater pressure to let Israel blow the crap out of Iran. And the Iranians might think that's cute and a cool idea, but Jesus Christ. Anyway, Let's get rolling here, guys. So Vice President Harris has reportedly picked her vice presidential candidate. He has agreed. We don't know who it is yet. They're doing a big rollout tomorrow, so I'm sure it's going to be, unless they announce it tonight anyway. I think they're planning on doing this big, surprise. I don't know what tomorrow, but she's picked whoever she's going to pick. We're going to find out tomorrow. We don't know. Again, the odds are either Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, or Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona. Those are the top two. Tim Walz is a possibility. Governor of Minnesota. He's a possibility. I'd call him maybe a little bit of a lesser chance, but you never know. Polls, lots of polls out today. Really good polling today for Kamala Harris. 3 new national polls showing her basically tied with Trump. CBS News YouGov poll released Sunday showed Harris has a 1-point edge nationally against Trump. That makes it a statistical dead heat. You got to remember when you look at polls that just because somebody's ahead 2 points or behind 2 points, thank you, Shane, you've got to look at the margin of error. And in other words, the poll can be wrong within 2 points, something like that. Or not wrong, but it's not precise. Thank you, Riverdam. Thank you, Shane. Thank you, F35. So when you look at the margin of error, she's tied. Even though she's 1 point ahead of Trump, within the margin of error, she's tied. So it's a statistical tie. So typically with a poll like that, you don't really say she's winning in that poll. You'd say it's a tie even though she's ahead. Just so you know. Thank you, real life. The this was interesting. So this poll showing Harris ahead by 1 point today. Just 3 weeks ago, it showed Biden 5 points behind Trump. So 3 weeks ago, the same poll showed Biden losing to Trump by 5. Shows Harris now beating Trump by 1. That's a big deal because that's outside the margin of error. That shows that Harris clearly has gotten some positive momentum here, which is great. Okay. A little bit more on this. Morning Consult poll, a second poll. Harris 48, Trump 44. This is the largest advantage for a Democratic presidential candidate in a year. So that's good. Even Trump's own campaign polls, which is really interesting. By the way, guys, mods, keep an eye on this. I am getting very close to saying mute anybody who brings up the UK. This is coordinated what's going on. This isn't real what we're seeing. Mute anybody. Guys, and I'm telling the regulars right now, don't bring up the UK until later. The mods will mute you for the day if you do it because too many people have done it. It's clearly on. But no, too many people are doing it. It's clearly on purpose. This is coordinated. 1 or 2 of you mentioning it could have been real. But when I'm talking about Kamala Harris and the polls, and 10 of you say UK, it means somebody's coordinating it. So not cool. Also, it's spammy as well. Let me just say, if we're talking about one topic, it's a little spammy. Anyway, I am worried about it because you know what? This is my show. And we have a community of people who come here to talk about politics, and people who come and spam are trying to get us off topic. They're trying to interrupt. They're disrupting, and it's rude. It's rude. So people can come here and talk about whatever we want, but if they're trying to spam, then they're causing trouble. So all right, let's talk about it. We can talk about the UK, but not in the middle of this, and not 10 of you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Kimmy. And again, it's spammy. It's also they're doing it on purpose. Again, some of this is foreigners being problematic and trying to cause trouble. And I doubt they're Brits. Let's put it that way. All right. Another thing here. What is it? This is really good. So a third poll, Donald Trump's own pollster. So the pollster that Donald Trump uses for his campaign came out and said today that in Pennsylvania, is this Pennsylvania? Hold on. Wait a minute. Yes, Pennsylvania. This was the poll in Pennsylvania, one of the key states both need. Trump and Harris are tied 48-48. And when you introduce a third-party candidate, they drop to 45-45. So Donald Trump's own pollsters say Trump is tied with Harris in Pennsylvania. Hugely important state that both of them need. And typically, your own pollster is going to lie a little bit. I mean, they're going to do the poll in a way that helps you. They're never going to do a poll in the way that helps the other guy. So if Trump's own pollster says she's tied with him in Pennsylvania, she's probably doing a little better. All right, a little bit more here. The breakdown of some of the polls. According to the CBS poll, with black voters, Harris is getting 81% of the vote. Trump 18%. Biden was getting 73%. So she's doing 8 points better among black voters. With Latinos, only a little bit. Harris is getting 62 to Trump's 36%. Under Biden, it was 60%. So she's only getting 2 points more with Latinos. That's not good. Battleground states. So battleground states are the key states that both candidates need. In the American election system, simply winning the popular vote doesn't win you the election. Unfortunately, we have a screwy system. Hillary Clinton, I always mention, won the election by 3 million votes. She won the election by 2 percentage points. So she beat Trump by 2 points. She lost. Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you, Rune. She lost. Because in our system, it's crazy, but winning the total number of votes doesn't help. You've got to win certain states, and each state has a point value assigned to it, and you've got to reach 270 points to win the election. And if you don't reach 270, you don't win, even if you get the most votes. So therefore, we look at the battleground states, which are the states that both sides need to win. Those are the best polls to look at, not just the national. Thank you, Nicola. So at the battleground states, the CBS poll shows a statistical tie in all 7 battleground states, according to the CBS News poll. Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Tied, guys, in all 7 states. Now, statistical tied, okay? In other words, Trump is ahead in one, she's ahead in the other, but the margin of error, which when you do a poll, you always have a margin of error, which means these are the results we got, but they're really within this range, because it could be off 2 points, 2 percentage points up and down, something like that. They're tied. According to the latest poll, they're tied. This is amazing. I mean, what is amazing about this is Joe Biden was losing to Donald Trump, clearly. I mean, clearly Biden was having a hard time, right? Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Randy. And Kamala Harris isn't even the nominee yet. Now, they're going to announce it tonight, I think. I mean, this weekend she had enough votes, but they're going to probably announce officially tonight. I think the voting stopped 15 minutes ago, I think, actually, here in D.C. So she wasn't even officially the nominee until, I think, probably just a few minutes ago. She jumped in the polls. She absolutely jumped in the polls when Biden stepped down. And Trump did not jump in the polls. Trump was supposed to jump in the polls the last 2 weeks. Trump was shot at, injured. 2 days later was Trump's convention, okay? Trump should have gotten a 6 percentage point bump in the polls from his election. That's from his nomination, the convention. That's the average. He absolutely should have gotten some kind of bump from the assassination attempt, right? I mean, I'm not going to support the man because somebody tried to kill him, but somebody out there is going to be more sympathetic. No one's going to be less sympathetic, right? Thank you, Don. Nobody's going to say, well, I like Donald Trump even less because someone tried to kill him. No. Some people are going to be more sympathetic. The fact that Trump did not rise in the polls at all is crazy. So the fact that she rose in the polls is huge, and she rose a pretty good amount, which is crazy. So this was really interesting. Again, polls I find very, very interesting. And I would say the American polls are quite accurate, Misha. People like to say our polls aren't accurate. Yes, they are. They're very accurate. For example, people say, well, but they got Hillary Clinton wrong. No, they didn't. The polls predicted Hillary Clinton was going to win the race by a couple percentage points. She did. But in America, you don't win the presidency by winning the total vote. You've got to win in key states. She lost the key states she needed, but she literally won pretty much by the amount the polls said she was going to win. She won by 3 million votes or 2 percentage points. So anyway, our polls are pretty accurate. Actually, you should always take it with a grain of salt. The other issue is with polls is these are polls as of today, August 5th. The election isn't till November, what did we say, 5th or so? For another 3 months. Wait, August, September, October, November, 3 months. The election isn't for another 3 months. So just because the poll says that today doesn't mean it all can't change. All right, a little bit more on this. So listen to this. Morning Consult, reputable polls, they also looked at voters' attitudes about Trump and Biden and Kamala Harris, like different things about them. The weird thing is, and I pulled out 3 or 4 of the interesting points. The weird thing is, on multiple points that it shouldn't matter, Kamala Harris looking like she's the nominee instead of Biden made Trump do worse. Your perception of Trump shouldn't change just because 3 weeks have passed, right? Just because Joe Biden said, I'm not running, and it looks like Kamala Harris is the nominee, that shouldn't be enough to actually 2 weeks now, I think, right? Not even 3 weeks. That shouldn't change your perception of Trump. It just changes your perception of Biden. Anyway, listen to this. Um, is this candidate in good health? Was one question. Is this candidate in good health? Kamala Harris, 58%. No. Kamala Harris, 71%. Joe Biden was at 30%. Okay. Is this candidate in good health? Joe Biden, 30%. Kamala Harris, 71%. Donald Trump, when Joe Biden was the nominee 3-4 weeks ago, 58% thought Trump was in good health. Now that Kamala Harris is the nominee, only 52% think. It dropped 6 points. So the perception of Trump's health dropped 6 points from 58 to 52 because Kamala Harris is now going to be the nominee. That's weird. It's interesting, but it happened in the other questions too. Listen to this. Does this person care about people like me? Okay. Does this person care about people like me? Biden was tied with Trump, 44%. 44% thought Biden cared about people like me. 44% thought Trump cared about people like me. Kamala Harris is at 48% instead of Biden's 44. Trump is at 43. I'm not going to consider that a change. Trump dropped from 44 to 43. That's within the margin, right? That's not so much. But that Harris is 4 points better than Biden, that's great. Mentally fit. Is this candidate mentally fit? Okay. Previously, Trump was at 53%. Biden was at 35%. Horrible, right? Harris is now at 62%. Trump was at 53 before. Okay. Harris is at 62. Trump dropped from 53 to 48. He dropped 5 points. That's again, and Harris is 62 to his 48 for being mentally fit. Fascinating. Final one. Is this candidate too old? Trump, 44% said Trump was too old. 70% said Biden was too old. Okay. Now that she's in the race, she is at 12% who say she's too old. Of course, she's 60. She's not too old, right? Thank you, Martin. But Trump went from 44. Now that Kamala Harris is in the race, Trump went from 44% thinking he's too old to 51% thinking he's too old. That's a 7-point jump in the poll. That's huge. Kamala Harris entering the race, thank you, Running, oddly has changed people's perceptions of Trump himself. Because this poll isn't pick her or him. This is each individual. Tell me your perception of them. Do you think they're smart? Do you think they care about you? Do you think they're old? Do you think they're mentally fit? It shouldn't be related to anybody else. But the fact that she's in the race and Biden's gone, suddenly Trump's numbers of what people think of him, his numbers are dropping. I think it's fascinating. And obviously, William, I can't pronounce her name correctly. Her name is very difficult to pronounce. I try, but I don't get it right because I'm a Midwesterner. So deal with it. But don't be bitchy about it. Bitchy is rude. Aiden Ross. So this was the final point. Thank you, Running. This was the final point. I love this. So right before the show starts, I see a video. Donald Trump today does an interview with a young social media influencer named Aiden Ross. Okay. Thank you, Kimmy, for subscribing. Aiden Ross. And he's some 23-year-old kid, has a big social media audience. I don't know if he's car racing or what he is. And Trump's sons turned Trump onto him. They reach out and Aiden says, "Oh, I would love to interview Trump." Well, during the interview, he, thank you, Randy. Thank you, Succeed. Thank you, Colin. During the interview, he says to Trump, "I'm endorsing you. I want you to become president," right? Oh, it gets better. So, actually, I'm going to see, hang on a second. I think I can pull this up because I've got it on my phone, which I don't want to mess with, but I think I can pull up my own TikTok. TikTok should be fine with me pulling up my own TikTok. Hang on a second. He interviews the guy. Actually, this guy interviews Trump. He endorses Trump. Huge social media influencer. Aiden then gets interviewed by some other guy as to why he supports Trump. Okay. And this is what Aiden says. I'm going to pull this up. Hang on. This is my. I'm going to stop a second. He says, first of all, you two keep screwing it up. I'm going to tell you guys what he says. So the guy, Aiden Ross, is interviewed by this other really good guy. I think he's TikTok. I don't know who he is, though. This other African-American guy who's great. And the African-American guy says, okay, give me 3 reasons you're supporting Trump. He goes, well, first of all, abortion. I'm going to hear this. Wait. What happened with abortion is ridiculous. What is happening with abortion is ridiculous. You should not be able to tell a woman what to do with her own body. Okay? He says to her, I'm just going to play this so I can get it right. And the guy looks at him and goes, wait, you support a woman's right to choose. And the reason you're not supporting Biden is because you think no one should tell a woman that she can't have an abortion. Okay? So hold on. All right, Josh, you have a sister. Yeah, I have a sister, bro. Okay. You think Biden was the one that wanted abortion to be, that's what you think? He's the president. He can, you know what I'm saying? He cannot ban it. He goes, what do you mean? He says, he cannot ban it. He was president. Why didn't he just not ban it? Okay. I'm going to explain this. In America, abortion was protected as a constitutional right. Okay? The Supreme Court in 1973 had found the constitutional right to an abortion in America. That meant that courts and legislatures, whether the federal legislature or state legislatures, could restrict abortion to a degree, but only to a degree. Okay? They couldn't restrict it too much because the Supreme Court found that there was a constitutional right to an abortion. Okay? Donald Trump and the Republicans for 50 years, Republicans for 50 years, Donald Trump only became a Republican when he ran for president. He was a Democrat up until then, for 60, 65 years, 70 years of Donald Trump's life, he was a Democrat. Trump and the Republicans for 50 years have been saying, we are going to overturn Roe v. Wade. We are going to kill the Supreme Court decision. We're going to overturn it and take away a woman's constitutional right to an abortion in America. Trump becomes president. Trump picks on purpose 3 Supreme Court justices because they got replaced when he was president. The president picks the Supreme Court justices. If the seat becomes available, 3 became available. Trump picked 3 judges who we knew, and he said he was going to. He picked them because he knew they would overturn a woman's right to choose and take it away. They did. They did it a couple years ago once Biden was president. Trump left, and they're still on the court. It's a lifetime appointment. Okay? The 3 Trump justices change the court and make it now conservative. They strike down a woman's right to choose. Roe v. Wade, which protected it constitutionally, is gone. The constitutional protection for a woman's right to choose is gone now in America. As a result, 20 Republican states ban abortion. 20 of our 50 states ban abortion now because of Donald Trump. This idiot that interviewed Trump today, for all of his 500,000 followers or whatever, super famous social media guy, young social media guy, 23-year-old, and then endorsed Trump on the show, says the main reason he endorsed Trump today is because he supports a woman's right to choose, and abortion is threatened was taken away. The right to an abortion was taken away under Joe Biden, so he's voting for Trump instead. Trump, who literally orchestrated the taking away of a woman's right to choose. I mean, I'm blown away. I am blown away. But again, the idiocy, thank you, Tally, the idiocy of this, right? I mean, again, it doesn't matter where you are in this issue. This guy's an idiot. I mean, thank you, Amy. Amy, right? Thank you, Kathy. There's just it doesn't matter where you are in the issue. If you're a Republican, absolutely positively, the MAGA Republicans, the Trump Republicans, the Republican Party wanted to take away women's rights to an abortion in America, and they succeeded. Okay? Republicans are proud of this. They don't deny it. They're proud of this fact. Trump even bragged about it. They're proud of this. It's not a political issue in the sense of it's not a political issue as to whether Trump did successfully take away a woman's right to an abortion. He did. And the Republicans are proud of it. To literally say, well, Joe Biden was president, so he's the one responsible. Man. I mean, these people are, it just blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. And I'm hoping somebody goes back to the idiot and goes, oh, are you changing? Actually, what would be really funny is if the idiot now changes his and says, I'm not supporting Trump anymore. Wouldn't that be funny? Would that not be the funniest damn thing? You know, if he doesn't support Trump. But yeah, this is I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. God, people are just freaking stupid. I don't know what it is. I really don't. I really don't. The interview was Aiden Ross, Adion, who's a big social media guy. Anyway, Wanda, let it go. Right? I'm not in the mood for this today. Let it go. All right. It is day 892 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Ukrainian pilots have started flying F-16 operations within Ukraine. Zelensky announced today. Very cool. Our friend Dutch Cossack called me on Saturday on what was it, Signal or whatever, and he drives me crazy. If you're there, you know you drive me crazy. He likes to leave audio messages, so he won't type out a message to me. He records a minute or two of audio, so I've got to listen to the audio. But it was great this time because in the audio, he's saying, "Oh my God, I'm driving in Ukraine. I'm not going to tell you where. I stop at a gas station to get a hot dog. Apparently, the hot dogs are very good in Ukraine." And he goes, "I'm leaving the door open to my car and having a cigarette," which somebody else noticed in the comments on TikTok was hilarious because he's having a cigarette in a gas station. Kind of funny. And he goes, "And I hear a plane flying over. And in Ukraine, you stop and look because you want to make sure what it is, and who it is, right? Could it be the Russians bombing you?" He said, "I looked up and I saw an F-16. He said it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. He goes, "I literally have tears in my eyes talking to you right now." So the American F-16s, I say American, meaning they're American planes. They came from Europe, are flying over Ukraine for sure. What is interesting is, and I was able to confirm this today, last week we were told that around 6 F-16s were flown or arrived in Ukraine. We were told that they were from the Netherlands, that they were from the Dutch, right? It was confirmed to some of you, maybe some of you even said it during my live. Some of you brought up and said, "Wait a minute, aren't there some Danish ones there?" At least one of the OSINT guys I like basically confirmed today that in fact the F-16 that was behind Zelensky in the big announcement Zelensky did this weekend was a Danish F-16. So it looks like there are Danish F-16s and Dutch F-16s in Ukraine already. Again, we don't know how many. I mean, who knows? We don't know. But very interesting, very interesting. Now, again, how many are they getting? When are they getting them? It may take a while before they're useful. The Ukrainians may not want to just fly a couple F-16s. They may actually, I don't know if Callum's here today. That would be a Callum question, or any of you, rest of you military folks, which is sort of what the critical mass of F-16s is that Ukraine would want before they felt comfortable even flying them outside of Western territory. In other words, Ukraine might fly them in Western Ukraine where they're safe, but would they get closer to engaging Russians with a small number of planes, or would they want at least 6 planes, 10 planes? I don't know how many, right? In any case, very interesting. The Ukrainian military destroyed a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber aircraft and an ammunition depot in Russia's Rostov Oblast on August 3rd, according to Ukrainian intelligence. Do please keep the gifts coming, guys. I always forget to make that pitch. I do the show full time. I do it for a living, covering Ukraine for the last 2.5 years. I'm now also covering the American election. Thank you, Echoes. Thank you, Nicolate. Covering the American election. And I do this full time. So if you can afford it, I would appreciate the gifts, of course, on either service. Subscriptions, even more, because subscriptions are a month-to-month contribution, which help me a lot. Thank you, Annie, and Annie, who does the really nice gifts. And thank you, PC Noel and Colin and Kimmy for the roses and Nicolate. But yeah, if you can help do the subscriptions, I appreciate it. All right, a little bit more here. This is a gross story, but it's important. There is a report. The Ukrainians are saying that the Russians dismembered a Ukrainian soldier. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Deans. The story is, thank you, Jews. Thank you, Martin. I did not look because I don't want to look. Jens just gifted a membership that went to Carrie. Oh, Carrie. We love Carrie. Carrie, thank you for doing that, Jens. Carrie just donated a few more jewelry items, Ukrainian-themed jewelry items that we're going to auction off soon, that I just got like a couple days ago. So thank you for that. That was perfect. And thank you, Croate, Francis, and Iggy, and Kimmy Cakes. So there is a video going around this weekend. I did not seek the video because I don't want to see it. Purportedly shows Russian soldiers dismembering a Ukrainian, cutting off his arms and legs, I guess, Ukrainian soldier, and rearranging them in a funny way, right? But imagine cutting off somebody's arms and legs and rearrange, like drawn and quartered him and rearranged his arms in a funny way and did video of it. Anyway, it's being investigated. Reuters did say, for example, that a United Nations Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine said in a report published in March that it had documented credible allegations of executions of at least 32 Ukrainian prisoners of war in 12 separate incidents from December 2023 to February, and that it had independently verified 3 of the incidents. The 3-member Commission of Inquiry said it had also gathered more evidence that Russia had systematically tortured Ukrainian prisoners of war, documenting rape threats and the use of electrical shocks on genitals. So, as always, do we know Russia cut into pieces a Ukrainian prisoner of war? Not yet. Is it something Russia would do? Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Pedro, for that. And thank you, Frank Thomas, for the gift there. Appreciate that on YouTube. The Telegraph, 2 more men have been charged in connection with an alleged arson attack on Ukrainian-linked businesses in London, carried out on behalf of the Wagner Group, which is the Russian mercenary group working for the Russian government. They joined 5 other defendants charged with a blaze at an industrial unit in Leighton, East London on March 20th. Interestingly here, the Russians are going into London and setting buildings on fire. That is an act of war. The Wagner Group literally is an arm of the Russian government. This is the Russian government committing arson in London. Thank you, Kimmy. And thank you, Kat Von Tid, for subscribing. I just don't even know what to, I don't even know what to say. I just, how many times are we going to let the Russians get away with committing acts of war before we do something about it? Ukraine has received a $3.9 billion grant from the United States via the World Bank. This is the first tranche, which is the first installment of direct budget support from the U.S. in 2024. The idea is it's budgetary assistance to Ukraine because the economy has so wrecked the government. A lot of their people are displaced. A lot of the people have left. They need support to keep the government even going. And we're helping do that, which is good. They're loans. If it's through the World Bank, they're loans. Hugo Boss opens... Hugo Boss has sold its Russian business to a wholesale partner for an undisclosed fee, the German fashion house said on Monday. The German fashion company suspended its retail business in Russia soon after Moscow invaded. It also paused its e-commerce activities and stopped advertising. So that's good. That's good. Yes, Hungary is doing a lot of bad things home time, opening its border to Russians, which is really bad. There's some debate in Europe now whether Europe should suspend the Schengen deal that it has with the European community, where basically once you enter the European community and go through customs in any country, you are considered cleared for customs in every country. That's part of the Schengen, what do they call it? The Schengen zone, or whatever it's called. So in other words, if I land in France, and it was wild doing this. I was in France for the summer, and I had to go through immigration to land in France. And then I took a plane to fly to Greece. And it was a domestic flight, so to speak, flying from Paris to Athens. And it was the craziest thing because you arrive at the airport in Athens and you just get your bag and you're gone because it's like a domestic flight. It was the weirdest thing. And the Hungarians are basically, because Hungary hates the West. They hate Europe. They love the Russians. They love Putin. The Hungarians are just, and I'm sorry, anybody who's Hungarian, you got a problem. And Hungarians always come on the show and go, you don't understand our politics. You guys are literally embracing the kind of people who oppressed your country for 50 years. You're embracing the Russians, who are basically the Soviets, and you're embracing the kind of leader like Orban, who's literally, I mean, if this guy doesn't scream Eastern European despot, I don't know who does. He's exactly the kind of guy I grew up with in America, watching dominate Europe for decades, 3 decades that I was alive, 4 decades watching this man dominate Europe. It's disgusting. And you guys are supporting him, and it's sick. In any case, so what the European communities, at least some members of the parliament, are talking about is, do they need to suspend Schengen with regards to Hungary? Because Hungary is literally letting Russians come into their country, like kind of unfettered, and the Europeans are afraid of spies, of saboteurs. We know the Russians tried to assassinate the head of the German defense industry. They put a hit out on him. They put a hit out on a number of other European businessmen and businesswomen. So yeah, kind of problems here. It is Hungarians. They literally voted for him. It's not Orban. It's literally Hungarians. It's kind of like saying Donald Trump is the problem and not Americans. Americans literally elected Donald Trump president, and he's literally the nominee of the Republican Party, and he's literally tied in the poll with Kamala Harris. I got news for you. Americans are the problem that Donald Trump is Donald Trump. It's not just Donald Trump. We're the ones supporting the fascist and the criminal. I'm serious. And the Hungarians have got the same problem. You vote in a fascist, and guess what? You're fascist. Period. You know, literally, remember your history, guys. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. It's bullshit. But it is. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm just not going to go there. Not all Hungarians. No. Yeah. Okay. Half of Hungarians suck and embrace fascism and embrace the very people who oppressed their country for 50 years. Okay. Fair enough. Half the country isn't a bunch of asses. Yes. Half of America doesn't embrace fascism. The other half does. I mean, I don't know that that really makes it much better that a majority of Hungarians embrace fascism. Okay. I mean, if that makes you feel better, fair enough. But I think it's the same thing. In any case. All right, guys, let's hang and chat, do our hangout. I'm not really up on the UK riots, to be honest. I know some people were trolling and others may have been legitimately curious. I saw what was going on, but I have not been paying attention. So I don't really have much to say about it. Now, but even Americans, bullshit. You know what? Do you know, I mean, the number of Americans who didn't vote because they don't care that Trump's the candidate. I mean, you've got a whole youth, blacks, Latinos not voting because, oh, well, right? You know, they don't care if Donald Trump, I mean, I'm sorry. This is young people playing the cute little game they're playing. Well, we don't like Trump, but Biden bothers us. Really? You know, give me a break. No, I just read something today. Somebody talking about, he's this Palestinian American expert on politics or whatever, and saying that, oh, you don't understand. I think he's telling the truth. You don't understand the number of Arab Americans in Michigan that are planning on voting for Trump simply as a protest vote against Biden over Gaza. And I was like, you know what? I've worked on gay rights my entire adult life, practically. I mean, 30 years I was working on gay rights, and then it became LGBT rights. Never once did the gay community get pissed off at one of our candidates for screwing us. I mean, you know, Bill Clinton was amazing on gay rights. He also sucked. Barack Obama used to endorse gay marriage. And then when he decided to run for president, he literally unendorsed gay marriage. He came out against it when he ran for president. He'd been supporting it for 10 years at that point. Never once did the gay community turn around and go, you know what? We're going to vote for the party that hates us. We're going to vote for the Republicans who literally want to ban us in the Constitution because we're mad at our friends. You're an idiot if you do that. And it just pisses me off. But anyway, sorry, you're getting me onto that topic. So Hungarians aren't the only ones that deserve my ire. But I see a lot of these communities, like that idiot Aiden Ross, where literally in his case, he just decided to use his influence to endorse Trump, and not even like because he thinks Trump is pro-choice and Biden is pro-life. No. Biden is not anti-abortion. Trump is anti-abortion. But the idiot didn't even bother checking. You know? Absolutely insane. Just insane. Oh, my God. Oh, Trump is horrible. Trump did threaten to deport Arabs. Yes. Trump literally banned Muslims from entering the country from the Middle East. It was literally called a Muslim ban. These people are insane, but they really are. I'm sorry, but there's a special class of idiot. If you are so, not just so wedded to your politics, but you claim to represent a community, and then you're going to vote for the guy who is 1,000 times worse to your community. I mean, Donald Trump on the Middle East? You think Biden's pro-Israel? Oh my God. Donald Trump will literally be like, you're not killing enough people. Here are more weapons. Right? Joe Biden is having a public fight with Netanyahu, the prime minister. Biden can't stand him. Donald Trump? No, I mean, and by the way, as we said, Trump literally tried to ban Muslims from coming into the country. He can't stand Muslims. He can't stand Arabs. He can't stand people of color. He's a racist. We know all of this. But again, it boggles my mind. People are idiots. I mean, and by the way, this is how fascism happens, you know? I mean, this is how it happens in Europe or America or whatever. So unfortunately, there's a good chunk of voters that are incredibly stupid. And I don't know what it is. I just don't know what it is. It's very sad. Anyway. What else, guys? What else? People forget, but they also don't learn. Like it's like that idiot Aiden guy. It still boggles my mind. Literally, Aiden Ross. I'm supporting Donald Trump because Joe Biden banned abortion and I care about women. No, it was Donald Trump who banned abortion. That was part of his platform, and he literally did. And he literally took away a woman's right to choose, constitutional protection, and then it was 20 Republican states that banned abortion out of 50. Like, yeah, maybe if you did a little research, Aiden, maybe you did a little research, little responsibility. Anyway. All right, guys, whatever. Iran, I mean, I don't, we're going to see what happens with Iran. So Iran and Israel, couple things going on here. Netanyahu, who runs Israel, I've talked about this. I support Israel. Netanyahu's an idiot. He's a complete idiot. Netanyahu doesn't quite care if he creates a war in the Middle East. That's bad. Hezbollah also doesn't care if they create a war, which is the terrorist group that runs half of Lebanon. Iran, which is like the terrorist country, also doesn't care if it starts a war. That doesn't mean they're all equal. I mean, Iran is literally a terrorist country. Israel is not. Hezbollah is literally a terrorist group. Netanyahu's an idiot, yes. So Netanyahu goes, and of course he's killing Hamas leaders and whatever, and Hezbollah leaders. I don't really have a problem with that. He did kill the one Hamas leader, and thank you, Wilson. I'll pull that up in a sec. The Hamas leader in Iran. That gets tricky, right? Because the Iranians feel the need to respond. Well, the Iranians, at least we have intelligence suggesting the Iranians are planning some huge attack against Israel. Well, if they do that, Israel's going to plan a huge attack against Iran, and we could break into a full-out war in the Middle East. Thank you, Dragonfly. That's bad. That's bad because will Russia feel first of all, will we feel the need to get involved? Yes. We now have ships we have like 20 ships, military ships all over the Middle East, our Navy. If Israel gets attacked by Iran and Hezbollah, we will get involved. Yes. America will absolutely positively defend Israel. They're our ally. No question about it, period. So we're going to get involved. If we get involved, will the Russians get involved? Right? Because Russia is Iran's ally. I mean, you can see how this could become difficult. It's a mess. It's a mess. So yeah, people are very worried about what's going to happen next. And Iran today decided it would be really smart to have some of their terrorist groups they support in the Middle East attack a U.S. military base in Iraq, and several U.S. soldiers were injured. That's real smart, right? That's real smart. We defend Israel for a lot of reasons, but they're they're our best ally in the Middle East. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. They're the strongest military in the Middle East. They're really one of the only sane countries in the Middle East, to be honest, in many ways, depending. I mean, not sane, but it's complicated. A lot of the other countries are a little messed up. There's a lot of reasons we support Israel. They're a huge strategic ally to us. And historically, I mean, now we are historically close to Israel. We are. And a lot of the Arab governments don't like us. They've never, I mean, it's been this sort of complicated thing. I don't know if I don't think Iran will claim the attack. Thank you, Edeja MG. No, Jordan's good. Jordan's a good ally. They're not as, they're not as close to us as Israel is, but they're very good. I went to actually graduate school with Abdullah the King. He was in one class of mine. I don't know him. I mean, he wouldn't remember me, but he was in one of my classes because he had like security guards, and we were like, oh, it's the future king of Jordan. How exciting. Actually, at that point, he might not have been the crown prince yet at that point. I don't remember. I don't think he was crown prince yet. Egypt is a weird ally. Egypt is run by a general dictator right now. Egypt is, right? They're an ally. We give them a lot of money, but Israel's a much closer ally to us than any of the Arab countries for sure. But Jordan, they're good. They're good. But in terms of the importance, it's Israel. And in terms of their strategic importance. And you go back to World War II, we do have a large Jewish population, and I got news for you. It matters. In America, I'm Greek. It matters. Our ethnic background matters in America. We do have ties to other countries where we're from, right? My family, we're close to Greece. Talk to the American Irish about their affinity for Ireland. People like to sort of go after the Jews for this. I got news for you. Talk to somebody who's freaking Irish. If the Irish were literally supporting the IRA, the terrorist group, they were giving them arms and money and stuff. I mean, like, people our domestic ethnicities also come into play, for a lot of this. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's who we are as a country. We are a hodgepodge of people. Oh, that's true. Wilson Pava says, oh, sorry, wait. Wilson, I had your first thing. Wilson said, we should spend less on artificial intelligence and more on combating natural stupidity. It always blows my mind how dumb people can be. Yeah, with the Aiden Ross thing. No, and honestly, maybe there's nothing you can do about it because you can't make people smart. Like, to me, it always blows my mind how people just don't go and look for the truth online. And they'll say something. And, I've criticized people for this before on the show, where people will say something definitively without looking. Like when I ask how many electoral votes are in a state, they'll be like, oh, 12. And it's like 11 or 19, or they just won't look. And it's something that drives me crazy. And maybe it's because I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a writer. And when I would write, whenever I would come up with something like that, I'd go, oh shit, I've got to talk about, Pennsylvania. I better check how many electoral votes Pennsylvania has. I'm not going to assume. I also did this with the spelling of people's names. Thank you, Marie. I would always, when I write stuff, I would always double check how to spell someone's name, because I just assumed we were going to, unless it's a simple name like Smith, even Smith could be with Y and E, that we're going to screw it up, and people don't, He was in Voyager. I know, David. David says Abdullah was in Star Trek Voyager in a non-speaking role. Wasn't he like an ensign or something? Very funny. I remember him standing there. It was very cute. Yeah. The King of Jordan, or future King of Jordan, was in Star Trek. One of the more recent Star Trek series. Very funny. But yeah, he was like dressed as one of the officers or whatever on the ship. And you could tell he was very excited, just kind of like very funny. Chris Christie, it depends what you mean, Kenny, by what happened. He actually is very anti-Trump. Trump almost killed him. And the only Republican, not the only, but one of the only Republicans that actually have some balls and some, what I'm looking for, some, what's the word? Not a constitution, a conscience, not backbone. It's integrity. Integrity is the word. Is Chris Christie. Big Trump supporter, which is bad because Christie pretended he was a liberal Republican, or maybe he was, then becomes a huge Trump supporter, helps Trump after everything Trump did for 4 years, but before the insurrection, helps Trump prepare for the debates with Biden. And what happens? Chris Christie, Republican governor of New Jersey, former. Thank you, Nicola. Christie helps Trump prepare for the debates with Biden. Trump doesn't tell Christie he's tested positive for COVID. This is October of 2020. This is when people were dying left and right of COVID. This is when it was really dangerous. We had my cousin's husband died in Thanksgiving, November. Died in November, like 26th or 27th or so of 2020. Her husband, who was a doctor, died of COVID, because back then a lot of people died of COVID. Trump doesn't tell Christie he's got COVID. He gets Christie in a small room of like 5 or 6 people, and they spend the day preparing for the debate. He gets Christie sick. Christie has to go to the intensive care unit, the ICU, the place in the hospital you send people who are literally next to death. He spends a week there dying. He finally got better. He was convinced he was going to die. They were convinced he was going to die. Thank you, Kronos. Christie, to this day, hates Donald Trump because Trump almost killed him. And the best part, I got to tell you this story. So I watched Christie during one of the interviews, and he says, and by the way, Trump also debated Biden. Trump already knew he was had COVID. He tested positive. He debated Biden anyway and didn't tell Biden. Yeah, Joshua didn't tell him. Biden was already, 78 at this point? Trump could have easily killed him. Didn't tell him. I mean, horrible. So Christie says he's in the hospital dying, literally. Trump calls him. And he thinks, well, this is kind of nice. Trump is calling it, Trump gave me COVID, lied about it. He's thinking, well, this is kind of nice. Trump is calling. He said, Trump talked to him. Literally, he goes, 2 seconds of how are you? And Trump immediately switches to, so you're not going to blame me for giving you COVID, are you? And he goes, no, why would I do that? Because I think Christie at the time didn't really know that Trump knew he had COVID. He goes, no, he goes, anybody in the room could have given me COVID. We don't know who I got it from. Okay, good. Okay, well, bye. And he goes, and Trump hung up. Because as soon as he got Christie to say that, Trump hung up. He goes, some journalists call Christie a couple days later, and they go, okay, we're breaking a confidence here, but I'm going to do it anyway. They said, Trump just called, and he's just told a bunch of us that you gave him COVID. Trump almost killed Chris Christie by giving him COVID. Calls him when he's in the hospital and says, Christie's in the hospital. You're not going to tell people I gave it to you, are you? He goes, no, Mr. President, I would never do that. Oh, good. So Trump then takes the opportunity to blame Christie for getting COVID. when Trump was the one who had it first. Oh, so Christie can't stand him. But the irony is Chris Christie is like the only person I would say who Trump did this to who actually stood up to Trump, which is kind of shocking. Nikki Haley did not. I mean, Chris Christie, again, goes back and forth on this, right? But it's still kind of impressive. I mean, that at least he's standing up to them. Thank you, Sojo, for subscribing. Anyway, we did Frank Thomas. It's an oxymoron, but yes. Frank Thomas is saying that it's surprising that we left, that as Americans, our ancestors left the country they were in, but then we're very proud of the country. Yeah. But again, that's because the immigrants were still very proud of the country. They came here for work. You know, both of my grandfathers came here for work, for jobs, for money. They were living in Greece. I mean, the village in Greece wasn't making a lot of money in 1890 or 1895, 97. They came over when they were in their teens. You couldn't make a lot of money in a village in Greece. I mean, literally the village in Greece in 1895, you can imagine what it looked like. You know, I mean, not great. They came here for work, but they loved their country. You know, some people came and left the country because they hated it or whatever, right? That's a whole different story. But others, you know, yeah. So, I mean, I'm not surprised they came here. Okay. In the Irish case, they came for food, right? They didn't have food. So yeah. Oh, Blue, you sent us a piece. Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Blue, for sending a subscription. So yeah, no, it's, I think some of those countries, like the Greeks, don't like us. The Greeks never understand. They kind of don't like Americans. Greek Americans, however, feel intensely Greek. The Greeks, I don't think they like us much, which is kind of annoying, but we're very proud of being Greek. Yeah. It's just, and it's part of because we were raised by immigrants. My mother was an immigrant. She was super proud of being Greek and she raised me that way. You know, so but again, it's the nature of Americans as well. We're a very unique country in terms of welcoming people from all over. Sometimes we're very bad at it, obviously, but generally speaking, we are a very unique, and I travel the world. We're a very unique country in that what do Americans look like? Are we white? Are we black? Are we Latino? Are we Asian? We're everything. Are we African? We're everything. There's now you could say there's a look in the way we dress or something, or our hair, but there is no, I mean, only recently Europeans are experiencing this. You know, Sweden's becoming very Arab in some ways. That's a bit of a shock because culturally, right? Greece is becoming very, Serbian and former Yugoslavian in the north. A lot of the North Africans coming to Europe. That's something we've had happen for 250 years. You know, so did Greeks invent the kebab? I don't know. I'm going to guess the Arabs did. I'm going to guess the Arabs invented it probably, or the Turks, because also there's some of the food the Turks, I think, brought to like Greece and maybe the Arab world or vice versa, you know? My friend from Ukraine asked me if we can tell where the U.S. people are from by their looks. Well, that's a different question, though. Not physically, of course, but maybe by the way they dress and certainly accents, you might be able to tell something about where people are from. But by, if you're black, that doesn't mean anything. You could be from anywhere in the U.S. I mean, I'm Greek. I could be from now. Once you know I'm Greek, you might say, okay, New York or Chicago. That would be the best guess because that's the biggest community, right? If you're Arab, you might say Middle East. You might say Michigan, right? So you get things like that. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree.
The AC is set to 75.
There we go. Okay. Sorry. And again, hope I'm not screwing up your Alexas, but it was getting hot in here. So anyway, yeah, Italians too, New York or Chicago. Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Shapiro maybe is likely to not be the pick. No, maybe. Jamaron says he's hearing rumors, or she, I don't know which way your name goes, that Shapiro is not going to be the pick. Hard to say. I don't know. Thank you, Marsha. Carrie says, Italian Americans love to celebrate together. We have a Greek festival every year also. It's trying to hold on to traditions that can be lost. Yeah, I mean, well, there is also a totally cultural mindset different. I remember in France several years ago and met this guy, and he was very blonde and he just looked different for a French guy. And I think I asked him at one point, and said, "Efkaristo Panuli," and said, "I said, but like, how far back does your family go in France?" He just was blonde. He didn't look French. I mean, because the French have a look too, although the French have very varied looks to some degree, but still, something about him did not look French. And he said, "Well, my grandparents were Polish," and I said, "Oh, like, but they moved here from Poland whenever, grandparents' age, right? 50 years ago, whatever." And I said, "Oh, do you call yourself Polish French?" And he goes, "No." Polish had zero to do with, he goes, "I'm French." Polish had zero to do with his identity. In America, we call ourselves hyphenated Americans. So I'm Greek American. I've always been Greek American. Now, if I'm traveling abroad, I say I'm American, but I will often tell people when I travel abroad, I'll say I'm American of Greek origin, or in French, you'd literally say that, of origin Greek, because it's relevant. You know what I mean? Because I am American, but my family's Greek. So if you're trying to figure me out ethnically, that's kind of the mix. Somebody in France typically isn't going to do that. It's kind of that is a very American thing. That is a very American thing. Jeff Moore is white. You're white American? That sounds bad. You don't want to say you're white American, though. I mean, I said that. Yeah, that may sound bad. Your grandfather's from Italy, blonde hair and blue eyes. Was he from the north? Because you do get, no, maybe not, but you do get a lot of those in northern Italy. Yeah, no, it's a very, yeah, no, not from the north. That's interesting, huh? No, it's a very common thing here. And again, maybe changing now with different generations and things. But when I was growing up, the Irish, so proud. I mean, and again, the Irish in Chicago, oh my God, the Irish in Chicago are so proud of being Irish. And their families came here in like the 1840s or what was the potato famine? The 50s or something? The 60s? Like 180 years ago, their family came, and they're still super proud of it. Like for my family, it was my mother and my grandparents. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but not your great grandmother or whatever, right? It just, to me, that's funny. I'm like, you've been here so 1845, 52. Okay, thank you. I figured that was about right. To me, that's kind of funny. Like, you've been here 200 years, but you're Irish. But they are. And the community stayed. Here's the other thing. The community stayed tight. So they married within themselves up until recently. So my Irish friends in college were 100% Irish. They were Americans, but genetically, ethnically, they were 100% Irish. Even though their families had been here for 100 and, however many years, 130, 140 years or whatever, they, at that point, it probably would have been 130 years. They were ethnically Irish. They only married within the Irish community that whole time. And again, Greeks do that. Blacks do that a lot up until recently. That's changing. Jews do that. Italians. In my family being Greek, it was, you should find a nice Greek girl. My grandmother would always ask me, like, it was expected. And that's changed now in, like, I'd say the last 2 generations. Thank you, Max, for subscribing. You're a Black American. And again, Black community too. A lot of people marry within the community. It's just, there's cultural reasons. There's lots of reasons, obviously, but we're still very much that way. Yeah. Yeah. There are spots in Texas that are ethnically German since the mid 1880s, and they still speak German. Get out of here. Really? Oh, that's interesting. And your family came from Slovenia in 1825? See, that's amazing to me, because I wouldn't have even thought anybody from that part of Europe would come to America at all that early. 1825 is like, the founding of the country, right? Ecuadorian married to a Greek? But that sounds like it works, though. Different sides of the world, but temperaments could be similar, I could imagine. A Latino and a Greek, I could see getting along. Yeah. But yeah, it's very different here in terms of the ethnicity and what. Now, again, changing. Like a lot of young people would probably tell you, like you said, well, I guess I'm part German, I'm part French, I'm part Italian. I don't know, and they don't know their history and they don't know that. But in my family, we know, the family tree. 2 branches of the family tree. We've got all the way back to 1780. Because the family was proud and kept that information. So anyway, very interesting. Minnesota used to have Swedish-speaking cities. Oh, I'm sure about that. My town in the Midwest was founded by Germans I only sort of went to the History Museum a few years ago and learned this, although I could have guessed it, but they were German Lutherans. And they formed like a high school that then turned into a college. And the college was like, we'd say liberal. No, it was like liberal arts or whatever. So like back then in the late 1800s was like arts and letters, right? Like philosophy, history, all the intellectual things that a well-bred man studies. Well, in the early 1900s, and I thought this was fascinating, in the early 1900s, America was industrializing. And the college realized that their students weren't able to get jobs because this was America. This wasn't Europe. Nobody cares if you're an intellectual, right? They didn't have skills to do jobs because they were training them to be philosophers and stuff. So the school literally changed from being a arts and letters school, liberal arts, we'd say in America, to being like an engineering, that kind of a trade school. Maybe not trade, but engineering and applied skills, which I thought was fascinating all the way back in early 1900, like 1905, 1910 or something, that the culture in America was literally changing the education system because the education system had, which again, I find this stuff fascinating because you sort of get to the whole thing of Americans being, again, we got our problems, but Americans being a little more matter of fact, a little more direct, wanting to get things done, practical maybe. Engineering, obviously, and sciences we excel at. Look at American business as far as internet and all that technology and stuff. And I think it really goes back to some of the weird cultural history and then our schools changing base because of the industrialization. Anyway, very weird. I find it fascinating, how that stuff impacts the education and the culture and everything else, Mike, I assume you're talking about the potato famine. Yep. Anyway, Mambo Italiano. Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Oh, that's funny. Jens says, on Swedish TV, there's a show where Swedish Americans with Swedish heritage get to travel to Sweden to find out about their roots. Oh, that sounds really cute. Oh, I love that. See, Greeks ought to do that. Like I said, the Greeks, there's a really weird mixed thing with Greek Americans. We're brought up to be very proud of being Greek. They don't think of us as Greek. It's a little disappointing, to be honest, as a Greek American. But that's really, I love that. I love that. The idea of like bringing them over. Now, mind you, I will say this too. As Greek Americans, we know our roots. So if you're a Greek American that doesn't know where you come from in Greece, that's kind of rare, I would think. Now, there are some, maybe. There probably are some, but generally speaking, people are a little more tied to their roots. But the Swedes, you guys would go back farther too, though. Those people could have immigrated in the 1800s or something, Thank you, me, myself, for the gifts. What else? Swedish-speaking places in Finland? See, to me, that sounds normal because you're nearby. To me, you're nearby. Maybe to you, that doesn't sound. Could we win a ground war against whom, where, AJ? What do you mean? Greeks? That's nice. Thank you, Goldie. Oh, thank you, Sav. Appreciate that. That was sweet of you. Sending a gift. I appreciate. Thank you. We don't know. Sobo, it's not quite clear why the military aid to Ukraine always gets announced. I don't really know why. I don't know if it's to maybe create pressure on other countries that everyone sees everybody giving. I do agree. It does seem like we keep telling the Russians what we're doing, just seems a little weird. But having said that, Zelensky, Biden, Scholz in Germany, Macron in France, all these leaders know the security implications of releasing information public about weapons going to Ukraine. They wouldn't do it if they thought it was dangerous or hurts Ukraine. So there's got to be some political reason that supports the effort overall. That's my guess. Thank you, Randy. That's my guess. Oh, I don't remember, Ben, about Martin Sheen doing some ethnic show. I don't know. What else, guys? No, Canadian Germans. Well, it's funny because Canada, I guess Canada too, though. You guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I know Canada's a lot smaller than us, but thank you, Blue Royal. But Canada is super multi-ethnic too. Have you not always been super multi-ethnic? I mean, you're French and you're English, so to speak, right? But were you always multi-ethnic beyond the French and the Brits? Or were you very British and very French? Now, we were very British too at one point, obviously. At the very beginning, we were British too. But early on, were you guys already welcoming a lot of immigrants from all over, like the Americans were? Because I think of Canada now as being very multi-ethnic for sure. I don't think of it like Europe, where the countries are only now kind of becoming a little more diverse, right? Oh, I know Quebec is French. Yes. Quebec City has a big German population. Interesting. Oh, the German market. That'd be kind of neat. Vancouver's the most ethnically diverse city in the world. Well, I always think of Vancouver as being super Asian, but I've never been. I know it's sort of the city that, the business with Asia and everything else, from Pierre Trudeau. So it only goes back to Pierre Trudeau. That's the 1970s, as I recall, who was Trudeau's father, who was also prime minister. Canada, that's cute. The USA is a melting pot and Canada is a mosaic. Interesting. I'm dying to go to Vancouver. Everyone loves Vancouver. I know, I've been dying to go. Someday, hopefully. Montreal, a lot of Italians. Toronto, a lot of Asians. That's the thing. Like, I think of Canada as being, again, I've been to Canada, but only so much. But I've never studied the ethnicity, but I've always had the sense that Canada was very diverse like we are. Sushi in Vancouver, why not? Toronto diverse, yep. Argentina, they speak Welsh. Oh, that's funny. Our place in Argentina, that's funny. I'm not really up on it, Scotty. Petition and no confidence in the UK government. That's getting way too inside baseball UK for me. And even like the riots, I don't know enough of what's going on with these riots. I just don't. I mean, I've got to sort of Google and get up on it. I've been seeing videos, and sort of crazy people trying to take advantage of it. But like Elon Musk, there's going to be a civil war. He literally tweeted that, the idiot. He's such an idiot. God, he's just a horrible human being. Moron too, but horrible human being. Did they actually die? Was it Nice? Did they die? The U.S. soldiers? No. Oh, that's bad. Are you sure about that? Because we know that several U.S. troops were hurt when Iranian supported groups attacked U.S. Military bases in Iraq. But yeah, let's make sure about this first. Yeah, I'll have to see here. I'm not seeing anything here yet, though. Yeah, injured I saw. I did not see killed. Yeah, I'm going to assume they were killed unless we see it confirmed. Yeah, big difference if they were killed. Yep. And I would think, well, let's see here. Of course they did. Yeah, nothing right now here. RFK Jr. is in trouble for doing something weird with a bear. He's so freaking weird. You guys saw that story this weekend of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who wants to run for president. And it's the weirdest freaking story. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming you all know it, but maybe you don't. He's just so weird. Harris is VP. She has chosen him, but has not announced it yet. She may not announce it till tomorrow. I think tomorrow is the big day. So they probably have a whole plan for how they're announcing it and stuff. 10 years later is probably too late to get him. So basically, okay, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Hold on. Alexa, raise the temperature 1 degree. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Set to 76.
Thank you. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., part of the Kennedy family, President Kennedy, his nephew, kind of a crazy person, was a big environmentalist. So very big and very good on the environment, and then went into crazy town and became an anti-vaccine person many years ago. He set up an anti-vaccine organization. He has said last summer, a year ago, there isn't a single vaccine proven safe and there isn't a single vaccine proven effective. He's crazy. His organization claimed this summer that polio vaccines don't work, that the polio isn't actually caused by the polio virus. Kennedy's organization claimed this summer. It's caused by God knows what stupid thing. Jaylene, I may do tomorrow morning. I probably will, especially with the VP nomination, or I probably will do a paid show tomorrow for the paid subscribers and during the day. So he's a conspiracy nut. He also panders to MAGA a lot. It's really weird. He's got issues. Well, the New Yorker magazine, very big, august magazine, is doing a profile of RFK Jr. In the profile, they ask him about a story from 10 years ago that they got from one of his friends. And they even had the photo, I think. So he got worried and went public with the story this weekend because the New Yorker was going to have the story anyway. The story did come out today, the New Yorker story. He wanted to go public with his side of the story. So he does a video he does a video. He says, he published the video on Twitter and says above it, okay, media, try to spin this against me, as if the story he's going to tell exonerates him totally. So he goes to Roseanne Barr's house. Roseanne Barr is a famous American actress who's so MAGA that she lost her TV show. She didn't lose her TV show because she's MAGA. She lost her TV show because, among other things, she did a photo shoot dressing as Hitler, putting cookies into the oven, like cooking Jews in the oven, okay? I mean, this woman lost her mind, but MAGA to the nth degree. She lost her TV show. RF Kennedy Jr. decides that he's going to give his statement telling his side of the story at Roseanne Barr's house, this crazy far-right MAGA nut job, okay? First mistake. He goes there and he says, so 10 years ago, he was 60 years old 10 years ago, by the way. People were saying, oh, it was a long time ago. He was young. He was 60 years old, 60. He was not young. He goes, well, 10 years ago, I was driving in upstate New York, and I saw a van hit a baby bear cub, a small baby bear. And I thought, hey, I can take it home, I can skin it, and I can cut it up and put the meat in my freezer to eat. Whatever. But this was his first thought on seeing this poor bear hit by a car. I can take it home, cut it to pieces, and eat it. It's like, okay. So he takes the bear, puts it in the back of his car, goes out to dinner with his friends in Manhattan. The bear is still in the back of his car, dead, this bear baby, while he's at dinner in Manhattan. He finishes dinner in Manhattan, realizes he's got to go to the airport from dinner, I don't know why, and says, oh, I've got a dead bear in the back of my car. I can't go home now. I can't put it in my freezer. I better get rid of it. It's a little weird. And by the way, the rural people keep saying, well, in Alaska, that's normal to eat roadkill. In English, it's called roadkill, animals that are killed along the road. A lot of the rural people are going, well, it's normal. We eat roadkill. That's normal. It may be normal for you. It's not normal for a Kennedy, who's one of the richest families in America, one of the most senior families in America, who was born and raised in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, Cape Cod, literally went to Harvard. I mean, as blue collar this as you get, not blue collar, blue blooded this as you get. It is not normal for filthy rich Americans to go pick up dead animals on the road and eat them. It is normal in rural states, correct? Not in the Northeast, okay? So he realizes, I've got to go to the airport. I've still got a dead baby bear in my car. What do I do? I've got to dump the bear body. Fair enough. So he drives to Central Park. Now, first of all, it's New York City. You can dump this little bear anywhere you want. You could dump it in a garbage can. He decides to dump the bear in Central Park. Okay, fair enough, right? Right, Central Park. Goes to Central Park, and he says to Roseanne, my friends were really drunk, but I wasn't. And the second he said that, you're going, but I wasn't. But we thought it would be really funny. And this is the part where I think he's lying, because this doesn't make any sense. We thought it would be really funny to put the bear in the woods in Central Park, and then I had a bicycle in my car. Again, this totally sounds not true. I had a bicycle in my car that a friend gave me to get rid of because, when you're getting rid of your bike, you turn to one of the richest families in America and say, hey, rich guy, Kennedy, can you take my bike and get rid of it for me? Right? Because I'm sure RFK Jr. goes to the junkyard every day with his grandmother. I mean, totally bizarre story. So I had a bike in my car, a bicycle that a friend asked me to get rid of. So I took the bicycle and put it on top of the dead baby bear's body so that people would think it was hit by a bike. And we thought that was really funny. Okay, let's analyze this. A, why did you think it was funny? You've got a dead baby bear and you have to get rid of it. And you think it's funny to put a bike on top of it so the police will think it was hit by a bike. Why is that funny? Again, he's lucky he was talking to Roseanne. That's not funny. I mean, even being fair, even if you're from Appalachia, it's really not funny to put a bicycle on top of the bear to trick the police into thinking the bear was hit by a bike. Why would you do that? I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Here's the thing. If you are dumping a dead body, and as somebody wrote in the comments on TikTok, and you are staging the body, you are literally taking the body and arranging it in a way to look like something else happened to the body. Thank you, Stephanie, for subscribing, right? If you're trying to convince the police that the body did not die the way it died, typically that means one of two things. Either you're inebriated, right? You're drunk, you're on drugs, you're on something, right? Because that would explain thinking it's funny. That would explain going, hey, let's dump it and put a bike on it so the police think it's really killed by a bike. Haha. It just doesn't make sense. So I could see, I guess if you're drunk off your ass or on drugs, maybe. The other reason, anybody who watches a TV show, why would anybody who's watched cop police shows, right? Why do people dump bodies and then stage them to confuse the police into how the body was killed? Because they killed it. That's the other reason you stage a body and try to confuse the police, right? You try to confuse the police about how it was killed because you killed it. Whether it was him, whether it was his friends, that would be the other explanation, that one of them killed the bear. Now, did they hunt the bear? Did they hunt the baby bear, which is incredibly illegal and incredibly gross? Did they kill it with their own car, which is sad, right? Who knows? It's first time you're hearing it, Susan. It's a crazy story. You can Google the video. He did a long video of it at Roseanne Barr explaining this. The problem is none of this makes any sense. And as Mike said, the story from back 10 years ago reported that the bear had like 3 stab wounds in it as well from a knife, that somebody stabbed the bear. Again, I saw the picture, and there's a picture of him with the dead baby bear in the back of his car, and he's put his hand in the mouth and goes, ah, like the bear's biting him. This poor thing is like this big. I mean, it's a little cute baby bear. Julian says, sounds like drunken behavior. It sounds like you're under the influence, or you killed it, or a friend killed it, and you're trying to hide a crime, is what it sounds like. I mean, his explanation makes no sense. He claims he was sober. If you're sober, a sober 60-year-old man, there's nothing funny about dumping a bear's body. Oh, it's a little weird dumping a bear's body, but hey, I'm sober and I think let's confuse the police into thinking the bear was really hit by a bike instead of getting hit by a car. Why? But again, why? That's not funny. It's just not fun. It's not funny. That's not funny. No person who isn't drunk or on drugs would say, oh yeah, that's really funny. Let's do that. And I've got a bike in my car that I'm going to use to do it. Anyway, he is a mess, this guy. And he literally, so again, just to reiterate, he put this story out there. He did a video at Roseanne Barr's house just to be crazy, right? He puts the video out there. He records a video yesterday or 2 days ago at Roseanne Barr's house. Thank you, Dora. And the title of the video on Twitter, where he posts, says, I dare the media to try to spin this story as though he's exonerated himself and there's no way to look at this story and think something bad about him. I mean, really. Oh my God. Well, could be. They're saying 3 black Suburbans just rolled out of Governor Tim Walz's St. Paul residence. He's expected to attend a fundraiser for Kamala Harris in Minneapolis tonight. Who knows? Could be him. Anyway, so very, very weird, sick puppy, that man. I just find it kind of sick. Just kind of sick. Just looking here to see what else here. What else we got here? Sorry. Anyway, guys. Anything else here? Nothing. Not seeing anything. No, just looking to see what other names or what other stories are out here. Anyway, what else, guys? Very weird. But I mean, the thing is, he literally thought like, this story is going to prove that I'm such a good person that there's no way you can spin this to hurt me. And literally everybody who I put clips of the video on TikTok because I was like, I figured no one's going to believe me. They're going to say you're spinning this, right? You literally watch he did 3-minute video, 2-minute 45 video of him talking about this, and everything I'm telling you, he literally says, and you go, are you insane? I mean, not much to say about the stock market. I will say a couple things about the stock market. Okay. World stock markets are going down because the U.S. economy showed weaker statistics last week than expected, and there's concern about whether the U.S. economy could still be at risk of a recession. In order to get rid of the inflation, interest rates had to rise. What that does is that slows economies down. Typically, you have a recession when interest rates go up. America did not have a recession. Our economy stayed strong. The Federal Reserve has been slowly lowering interest rates, but not by very much. They said they were going to lower some more next month. Now people are saying, should you have done it now? The problem with interest rates is when you change interest rates to raise them or lower them, it takes 18 months for them to kick in. So doing it now doesn't change the economy for another 18 months, basically. So the U.S. Economic data comes out last week, scares the hell out of people on Wall Street and international markets. Oh my God, is the U.S. still at risk of a recession? If they are, then if the U.S. economy slows down, has a recession, that affects the world economy because we're such a big economy. We're buying goods from all over the world. So international markets start freaking out. The U.S. stock market starts freaking out. So they've been dropping. The good news is that I think it's the S&P 500, which are the 500 top companies. They're still up 9% this year. I believe they're up 25% over the last 12 months. I believe they're up 55% since Trump was president. So yes, the markets went down. That happens. It is not a problem yet. Also, the other thing is stock markets always go up and down, meaning they always plummet. At some point, they always plummet 30 or 40%. They do. And then they go back up. They do. So that you kind of, it's a bit of a, I mean, I don't want them to go down. I've got my retirement in there too. But they have to go down eventually to then go up even more later. It's just the way they work. The market never does this. It doesn't go up on average over the long term. It goes up, but it always is going exactly. Lamb Chop says adjustment. They call it an adjustment. It could drop 20%. It could drop 40% and then go back up again even more. So, or a correction, they call it exactly. So, I mean, I don't want it because I'd like to retire soon, but which I'm not gonna, but I'm not too freaked out about it because put it this way. Do I think the markets are going down and they're never going to come back? No. Right. Do I wish I sold? Of course. And my cousin has told me this, and a lot of people have told me this. I'm not going to give you market advice, but what my cousin tells me is you can't predict what's happening with the market. Even right now, is it going to go down 20% more? Maybe. Is it going to go up 30%? Or instead, are people going to start buying because everything's really cheap? Maybe. We don't know. A lot of people, I mean, I believe this, but again, I'm not going to give you market advice. My cousin Mark always tells me, even though it's hard, I'm like, Mark, I just want to sell everything and wait. And he says, but the data has shown time and again that most people screw up when they sell everything and then buy back in when it's lower, because you don't know when it's lower. You don't know when it's turning around. And most people sell because they get scared and then they wait too long and they buy after it's gone up but they literally, in other words, you sell here and then you buy once it's back up here so that you've lost even more money. And the studies show most people just screw it up. Having said that, I find it very difficult, I admit, because you watch this stuff go, some of my investments literally dropped 50%. I mean, I have some money on some of the investment sites, and literally it went down 50% during the Trump era, with COVID and everything else. And I just had to kind of go, what do you do? And then it doubled again, and now it's dropping again. It's just, that's what it does, You can Zerpachi. The problem is most people don't get it right. Zerpachi said, my dad sold all his stock of a company and bought it again the next day, made 20,000. The problem is that most people screw up. And again, you can Google this, but most studies, I should say not most, the studies show that on average, people will screw up if they sell their stocks in order to buy again when they're lower. They will screw up. They'll buy at the wrong, they'll buy at the wrong time. So what it is, it's one school of investing, bogleheads, among others, that will tell you, you know what, invest and leave it alone. Especially if you're young, leave it alone. Just let it, if you've got 20 years, 30 years, 40 years until you retire, you don't care if it drops. What you care is long-term investments that are going to do well. You don't care if it drops in 5 or 10 years. Who cares? You're not retiring for 40 years. If you need the money next year, that's a different story. Then they would tell you don't invest in the market if you need the money for a house next year, right? Put it in a certificate of deposit, right? But no, it scares me. It scares me because if you're retiring, and somebody mentioned on TikTok, if you're retiring, it's a different problem. Because if you're retiring, you've got to take money out every year to pay your bills, and you don't want to sell your stock to take money out when the stock is down, because then you do lose money. But you don't lose money if the stock goes back up first. Not giving you advice. But that's why I'm not as worried, because I'm like, I'd love to quit working. I don't see it happening anytime soon. By the way, give me gifts, give me subscriptions. Speaking of which, so I don't have to sell my stock. And yes, I don't want to get into too much of the investment stuff, because God only knows how that works. You know what I mean? Some people think that PC null, not everybody. Not everybody. It's an interesting, conservatively, they think that. Yes. Thank you, NJ. Thank you, user 336. Thank you, Super Hornet. See, I'm getting hot again now. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. I told you my hello. I know. Hi. I'll get you in a second. My thermostat drives me a little crazy, or my heating, or my cooling, because it's like too cold, too hot, too cold, too hot. It's like, oh my God, Anyway, Caps, I would not say the stock market. The stock market is a gambling casino if you gamble. It's not a gambling casino if you put the money in and plan to leave it for 20 years. Invest in total stock index funds. Unless America goes bankrupt and ceases to exist, they're going to be doing well in 30, 40 years. 1 second. Getting the dog water. 1 second, crazy dog. 1 second. All right. 1 second here. Oh, my God. But yes, I think stocks are gambling. If you buy individual stocks and start playing games, you are gambling. Yes. If you invest in the market in good companies, or even better, index funds that cover the entire market over a long time. Thank you, Colin, for subscribing. I don't think it's a gamble personally. Again, if it's going to stay there for 20 years, in principle, it can go down for 10 years. It can go down for 10 years. That's the problem. So as you get closer to retirement, which somebody said over on, thank you, Blue, for sending the gift. Anyway, should you be scared? I don't know. Of what? I'm not sure. Côte d'Ivoire. J'ai visité. J'ai fait du travail pendant une semaine là. Abidjan. I don't know that we've had an Ivoirien here before. I'm assuming you're Ivoirien. Maybe you're not. You could be somebody else living there. But I was there for a week, a couple decades ago, but still. Thank you, Eva, for the gift. But yes, I would like to retire someday. Someday retirement would be nice. Ooh, hot. Very hot out today. What is it? 88. Ugh, 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 ugh. The next day is hot and then it gets better. Thank God. After tomorrow. Merci, c'est gentil. Thank you, Aaron. The attack in Iraq is bad, Lindsay. It's bad. Iran's playing games. You know, Iran's fucking around and they're going to find out, basically. It's not good. They're basically screwing around with Biden. You know, come on, Sash. And they're kind of lucky in a way because I think Biden is going to be more careful. Trump might be. Well, Trump, you never know, too. I mean, Trump wasn't the best either, really, on this stuff. Oops. Trying to pull this up just a little. What age do you want to retire? Yesterday? I know they're out there. Just wait. Just wait. She hears her buddy in the hall. Oh, God. She's going to bark. She's going to bark. Just looking here. I know. Hey. She didn't do this for several months, and now she's doing it again. She hears him. She hears the neighbor's dog and then wants to play with him. It's only cute when it's not your dog. Sasha! Hey! No! Doesn't care. Doesn't freaking care. She wants her friend, which is cute, but it's annoying because it literally is a piercing. Yeah, right. Alexa, calm my dog. It's just like the loudest freaking thing. And her bark is this piercing bark that drives me crazy. Oh my God. And then of course she does this and the neighbor nicely enough goes inside. So by the time I then bring her in the call to play, then the neighbor's dog is gone anywhere, you know? Opinion on what, Candy? Sorry. On what? I am going to call it quits soon anyway because it's 7:35, so I don't want to go too late here. Hey! I don't want to go too much later because it's 25% chance is pretty good. All right, guys. You know what? Hey, Sasha! Hey! Oh, and Iran? I mean, just that. I think the Iranians are screwing around. Netanyahu's being a bit of a dick. Chance of war? Yes. Gonna suck us all in? Maybe. Hey! No! Hey! Doesn't even care what I say to her. I mean, it's funny because she's well-trained, but she also doesn't care. Sasha! Quiet! Literally, I've got to like scream at her and then it's like a second of quiet and then she starts up again. Oh my God. She's 14 and a half. So put her in another room. You want to really hear screaming? You want to really hear screaming? Let me put her in another room. Thank you, Marge. She's even worse when I put her in another room. Trust, it's a whole, she's going to, I think she's losing her hearing a little bit. Yeah. But again, she heard me yell at her right there. She did hear me yell. But oh my God, she's half Yorkie terrier. And the terriers are just like, I had Googled when I got her and I was reading that terriers are obstinate. And I was like, obstinate? Thank you, Ellie. I'm like, I've never had a dog that's been obstinate. What do they mean obstinate? This is obstinate. She knows damn well what she's doing. She knows damn well I'm yelling at her to be quiet and she doesn't freaking care. Like, she knows what's going on. She's just kind of like, maybe not. You know, maybe not. Anyway, all right, guys. Yeah, vote for Sasha. Exactly. All right, guys. I'm going to sign off. We've been going an hour and 35 minutes. I will check in tomorrow when we know who Kamala Harris's vice president is. Maybe tonight. If it pops up tonight, maybe I'll come on briefly. But otherwise, I'll check in tomorrow and do a show for the paid subscribers. And then, of course, we'll do our regular show tomorrow night. Again, not doing Discord because it's late, Sobo. We could have done it at 7. But, okay. Oh, God. Brutus is barking again. All right. Let me go deal with the idiots. All right. But I've got to get her to stop barking because I don't want to go in the hall while she's barking because then she learns that that's like a good thing. Hey! Jesus. All right. Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh, my God.